In this video, let's talk about certain server protection measures that Ispmanager provides. Something that I had already covered and is also part of server protection is two-factor authentication. So make sure you enable two-factor authentication for your users. You can show them how to do it so that it secures their account. First, come here under Ispmanager documentation under tools. You're going to see there are certain things here. You can look at firewall rules. You can also look at integrations. There are certain things here that cover security. So just come in here, look at all these integrations, enable the ones you can enable. And Cloudflare, definitely enable this one. It will automatically work with your Ispmanager. And there is a guide for how to set it up. So just click there and you'll see how to add the API key, how to generate and add the API key on your Ispmanager panel. So let's come to the panel. We can come to the panel and let's look at some of this. You see we have DDoS Guard, DDoS. This will protect your server from DDoS attacks. Let's click on install DDoS Guard. The module will get installed and then after that you're going to see what options we have. Click on modules and you'll see that DDoS Guard has now been installed. And we can look at the settings. So you can add a domain to be protected. If you want to protect multiple domains, just click there, add domain, and you can select all domains or you can select specific domains. Cancel. So as the root, you can enable DDoS protection for your users. Once they add a domain, just come in here, click on add. Let's say we select all domains and then next. You'll input your DDoS details right there. So you have to go to the DDoS website, DDoS Guard website. You can come back here. You can put in the access details to authorize Ispmanager. Now let's go back to modules. Let's see what else we have. As I said, go to the documentation. Make sure you have enabled Cloudflare as well. So if you want to buy a license for DDoS Guard, you can just buy it right there. And then all these other options, Kernalcare, this one, these are security features. You can also install this. It's going to install the module. Okay, the installation is complete. Go back to modules. Kernalcare, you can look at the settings. And then you can install this to complete the installation. And then install Kernalcare, yes. Of course, you need to activate the license for this. So just go back to modules and see. And then you can patch the kernel. You can roll back patches. So when you use Kernalcare, you don't have to restart the server. So get your license and enter the license right there. So of course, I don't have a license. I'm just going to skip this bit. But you can always come in here and patch the kernel. If anything needs to be updated, you can just click there on patch. If you want to roll back anything, you can roll back. If the kernel will require any patches, if the Linux kernel will require any patches, you'll see the details right there. Right now, there's nothing to be patched, so there's nothing to show. Let's go back to modules. Let's see. There's another one here. Of course, Immunify as well. Install that and just come back to modules, click on settings and see the options that you have. And then Dr. Web is an antivirus. If you have users, serious users on your panel, then go ahead and set up Dr. Web. You can buy the license and see how it goes. If you come here under integrations, you're going to see this Dr. Web. Read more about what you can do with it, how you can install it right there. That pretty much covers the modules part. So let's go to fail2ban. Fail2ban is a very important one on your server. If you want to work with fail2ban and you want to see what the documentation says about it, come here under tools and you will find it under network services. So just read all that, but let's just get an overview of how to work with fail2ban on Ispmanager. So if I come back to the panel, let's go to monitoring and logs. If you want to work with fail2ban, you'll come here under monitoring and logs, network services. And let's say you want to enable fail2ban for Apache. You're just going to click there and you can look at the current rules that are set up for Apache. And if you want to see which rules are active, you can see the status is showing active. If a rule is not active, you can just enable the rule. If you want to enable a rule, you can just click on it and then enable, resume that. And you'll see now it's enabled. Sometimes in certain services, you can actually enable multiple rules at the same time. Let's see if that is true for Apache. So fake Google bots, all this, once they get in, they will be blocked. So let's just click there on enable and see if we can enable multiple fail2ban rules for these Apache services. And you can see that is possible as well. So if you want to enable for all these other services, click there, enable, okay. And that's going to enable fail2ban for all these services. Now for each service, you can change the fail2ban rules. For instance, Apache authentication or Apache bad bots. Let's click there and let's change the rules for fail2ban. So let's go and edit. And here you'll see that attempt number. So the attempt number is how many times you want to give leeway. How many times do you want somebody to try something or a server to try something before it is blocked? So here you can put maybe 5 times. It depends on what it is. If it is something that you know is bad, maybe you can make it 2. And then the ban time. How long do you want someone to get banned? So after 2 attempts, they will get banned maybe for this number of seconds. And then of course, maybe you want to whitelist your IP address. So you can enter your IP address there. So you can list a subnet, you can list a DNS server name, or you can just separate IP addresses using a space. So you can add a second IP after that space. If you don't want to get banned, you can always add your IP address in the list of the whitelisted IP addresses. So I will cancel that. Let's go back. It's just the same process. Let's say you want to protect Nginx. You'll just click there on Nginx and then you can click on enable, or you can look at the current fail2ban settings. The current fail2ban settings, you can click to apply to all rules. You see, you can apply it to all the rules in Nginx and you can do the same for Apache. Let's come back here in Apache and we can go to fail2ban settings, attempt, number of times, ban, how long do you want to ban? Sometimes you want to ban things based on the service that is being accessed. Nginx, let's come back to Nginx. Let's look at the fail2ban rules that are possible for Nginx. So you're going to see bot search. This is something maybe you can ban for a long time because it's a bot. Nginx HTTP authentication. This one as well you can ban for a long time. But when it comes to limit request, probably this is someone who's just been excited and clicked on a page multiple times, or it could even be a bot. And sometimes you don't want this to go for a long time because the ban may go for so long when it is not necessary. The limit request on your Nginx server, maybe you want the ban time to be different, you can edit that there. But if you prefer to have everything have the same settings, you can just come in here and apply to all the rules. So it is just the same for all these processes. If you want to ban anything, you can come in here, look at the fail2ban rules which are available. For SSH, maybe you can edit and see the options which are there. Maybe at some point, maybe you're feeling like you're being targeted, you can increase the ban time tremendously because this is 10 minutes. 10 minutes may not be enough. Just in brief, how to use fail2ban. Come here under monitoring and logs and then come into network services and then enable the fail2ban services that you want. For your named server, you can enable, or you can look at the fail2ban settings. You can look at the fail2ban rules and enable it. You can see it is not enabled. Just enable that. And you can ban IP addresses that break certain rules on your server. So let's just go through how to set up two-factor authentication, even though I did a video for that. So if you want to set up two-factor authentication for your user, you have to come in here under the user settings. And then you will go all the way down, enable two-factor authentication, scan the QR code which is there, and then enter the code that will be shown on your Google Authenticator. And once you enter the code there, just click on activate. Click outside, then click on activate, and that's going to enable two-factor authentication. And if you want to disable two-factor authentication, you'll just come back and there will be an option for you to enter a code. Enter the code that you can see in your Authenticator app, and then click the button, and that's going to disable two-factor authentication. So other things about security, of course, you need to set up your server the right way and make sure that everything is working fine. You can set up SSH key authentication, disable user login on your server, and you can also change certain ports. SSH port, you can change the SSH port. That will reduce your attack surface because the default port is 22. If you change it to a different port, any port that looks for port 22 will automatically get blocked, and you can set that up. So just look at how you can set up your server. Go through server security. I do have an initial server setup for Ubuntu, Debian, and CentOS. So if you're using any operating system in that line, you can always find those videos. And I have a playlist that has a video for initial server setup. So you can find your operating system and then follow the initial server setup for your server. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Most importantly, make sure you utilize the Ispmanager documentation if you have any questions. And of course, if you're subscribed to the panel, you have access to Ispmanager support. You can contact them with all your questions and any issues you're experiencing. That's it for this video. I will see you in another one.